there's just going to be one more presentation. I know it's a long day, but we do have some refreshments and food waiting for you after one final presentation. I'd like to call upon Robert Gullish. Are you here, Robert? He's coming up now, so please just hang on. The title of Robert's talk is Addressing Loneliness Through Men's Sheds. So hang in there, everybody. We're getting close to the end of this day. Robert.
Okay. Well, 4:36. I'm sure by now you've reached your optimal cognitive level. I know where my level is at, and I'm going to ask you to bear with me for the next half hour. Andrew, thank you very much for the invitation. Delighted to be here. I plan to start the presentation with a little bit of men's shed levity. So I connected with Siri. Unfortunately, the jokes were lame and painful to listen to, so I'll spare you from that. And instead, I'll talk to you a little bit about loneliness, talk to you a little bit about men's sheds, and our national organization, Men's Sheds Canada. And then we'll conclude with a 4-minute video. So loneliness is the ultimate paradox, the only crowd where you are still the only one. It's like being stuck in an echo chamber where the only voice bouncing back is your own. It's the only club where everyone's a member, but no one wants to attend the meetings. Now enter Men's Shed, the clubhouse where membership comes with a free set of tools, and the only rule is to leave your worries at the door. It's where coffee is strong, where the laughter is loud, and the only thing viral is the common cold. Okay, we'll go to our first slide here. Uncertainty sets the foundation for loneliness, and our world is transforming so rapidly that uncertainty is the norm for most people. And you all know, you probably read in the media, that the WHO recently declared loneliness to be a global pandemic. Dr. Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General in the United States, in his inspirational book, Together, identifies loneliness as a major killer, responsible for more sickness, suffering, and death than anything else. Research indicates that it can increase the risk of strokes, cardiovascular disease, as well as anxiety, depression, and dementia. The antidote, according to Dr. Murphy, is better connection with community, family, and friends, kindness and caring for each other. And there's another one, Dr. Jeremy Noble from Harvard. He's the founder of Project Unlonely. He also stresses the importance of community engagement in addressing the loneliness pandemic. In Canada, the National Institute on Aging reported that 58% of men over 50 have experienced loneliness. Men, especially older men, are particularly vulnerable. Humans are social animals. We do better together. Okay, next slide. As men age, they may face significant life changes such as retirement, loss of family members and friends, develop health issues, geographical separation from their children and grandchildren. Traditional masculine values often discourage men from expressing emotions and seeking social supports. We are funny creatures. Men over 65 have among the highest rates of suicide in Canada. And as loneliness continues to exist globally, the significance of initiatives like Men's Sheds cannot be overstated. Governments, healthcare providers, and communities must recognize and support these initiatives as a vital part of public health strategies to mitigate the adverse effects of social isolation. Health promotion and health literacy are key objectives for a Men's Shed organization. There is an absence of tailored services for struggling men. And that's why Men's Sheds is such a good organization. It responds to these very real needs. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Men's Shed, and this is the next slide, but we're trying to make Men's Sheds become a household word. Many haven't heard of it, and so let me just give you a little bit of background on it. So the photo that you see on the slide is Laura Tamlin Watts, then her daughter, and then Diane Cable, who's the Director of Policy and Research at CanAge. Laura is the founder and CEO of CanAge, and CanAge is Canada's national seniors advocacy organization. And the photo was taken right in front of my home shed in Squamish. So it all started in Australia in 1998 by a senior named Dick McGowan, who wanted to do something for retired and older men who were struggling with their lives. So he determined that there's a need for them to go to a place, someone to talk to, and something to do. It's a pretty simple concept that gained global attention. And right now, I think we've got about 3,000 sheds in 15 different countries, including Canada. The first shed in Canada was started in Winnipeg, of course. In Winnipeg, just like with Age Friendly, in 2011. It was started by a man whose name is Doug Mackey. You may have heard of him. There are, let's see, what's the other one? In Canada, we have about 125. I think it's a little more than that. We have about 125 to 130 men's sheds in Canada. But I should mention that it is growing exponentially in Canada and also globally. So what are the benefits of joining Men's Shed? That's the next slide. A shed provides a sense of belonging, a sense to develop new skills, and a health by stealth approach to mental health, all in a supportive and friendly environment. And of course, sheds contribute to their communities through community build projects, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that later. Often men are not comfortable talking face to face. They talk shoulder to shoulder, and it's really about men helping men. The other benefits of joining is, last year I had the opportunity of going to Shed Fest at the United Kingdom, Men's Shed Association. They invited us, and I ran into a researcher whose name is Patrick Abraham. You may have recall his name. He's been involved in social prescription, but he also authored a survey, a report on suicide prevention with men's sheds. He surveyed 980 shed leaders across the United Kingdom. And listen to this, 39% of the shed leaders said that their sheds likely stopped death of a shedder by suicide. I mean, that's an incredible statistic. It's anecdotal, of course, but in Canada, we need to do more of that kind of research to help us develop policies on suicide prevention and services and programs that will gear to older men. Next slide. Okay, so not one size fits all. Although men's sheds share a common purpose, they may look quite different in different communities. Each shed is unique in its own way. Some focus on woodwork, some focus on social activities, some are affiliated with the charity sponsor, with the charity organization, but most of them are independent. Many of our sheds are founded by women, like ours in Squamish by Karen Clark, who was with the Better at Home program. And you can find them everywhere. They could be at senior centers, at high-rise buildings. They can take on, standard structures, or even on, on a farm where we have one right now at Lac Brum close to Montreal. We even have one at the University of Montreal, at Queen's University, in their engineering department. Not very long ago, I was doing a presentation at the NORC Symposium at Queen's, and the engineering department expressed an interest in starting a men's shed there. So we made it happen. You cannot believe the toys that they have there. Unbelievable. So, you know, it's a very satisfying endeavor, and I'm really happy that that university was able to pull it off. The next one is about, let me tell you a little bit about community projects. So what do? Community build projects is an important activity for all men's sheds. So on the left, way up there, so this is the Squamish slide. It's all about Squamish men's shed. It's a 3,000 bat house condo that we built and situated in the estuary in cooperation with the Watershed Society. The Hospice Society asked us to convert an old piano into a bookshelf. Here we have an intergenerational project where every summer, and this is going to be our 5th summer, where we teach basic carpentry skills to children between the ages of 5 and 11 years old. Teach them how to hammer, how to nail, how to saw, how to glue, and put together a little craft piece so that they can bring home and show their parents. And in the meantime, you see the shedder, who's a grandfather, you know, and connecting with the little children. It's an incredible program. And then, of course, with the Climate Action Group, as part of their food scarcity program, we've constructed 74 garden planters in the community. Mind you, we've got over 150 throughout Squamish now. So these are some of the activities that men's sheds do, and we do it together, and we have a lot of fun doing that. So let's go on to the next one. Yeah. Men's Sheds Canada. I want to tell you a little bit about our national organization. We're a very young organization. We had our inaugural AGM in 2022, so we're not that old. And I got to tell you, when I first started in 2022, I was 6'2", and I had no gray hair. Pretty soon I'm going to be looking up to glory, if this keeps up. Right now, we are a working board, so all our guys are volunteers. We don't have any really paid staff. We haven't had paid staff for 2 years, and so we've been working our buns off, but we are soon hoping to become a governing board, and I'll explain to you in a minute why. We're going to have our 3rd AGM this coming June, next month. We're ambitious. We aim to start about 1,000 sheds over the next 10 years, a shed for every community that wants one. At this point in Canada, as I mentioned earlier, we have about 130 sheds and growing. We've also signed a memorandum of understanding with 4 provinces, British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, and Ontario. So those associations are also working on starting sheds in their provinces, and we're working in collaboration with them. And we're going to focus on establishing these provincial associations in Quebec and Atlantic Canada. Saskatchewan's kind of left out for now, but we will focus on that in the territories in the years to come. I also want to say that, for the past 3 years, because we have no money, the money had to come from somewhere, and United Way, British Columbia, and HelpAge Canada have been enormously, and I mean enormously, helpful in providing financial support for new and existing sheds. They provided us with $1,000 grants for startup sheds, $10,000 for project grants, once they've been established, they wanted to move forward. And then they also helped us to provide funds to the provincial associations to help them with their infrastructure. And not only that, but we had 2 provincial men's shed conferences in the last 2 years. One was in Squamish in 2021, and last year in Cold Lake. And again, thank you to United Way British Columbia and HelpAge Canada. They've been very generous in funding those 2 conferences. And those conferences, I have to tell you, were accelerators to start sheds. It was incredible, the force that happened after, the reaction, the people that were there, and how many new sheds were created as a result of those provincial conferences. They are indeed powerful accelerators, and we're going to continue in that vein. So let me tell you a little bit about the next one, and this is a few highlights about our organization, our national organization. As I said, we started in 2022, we're into 2024, and I want to tell you some good things that have happened to us. So funding, as we heard all day today, how important it is. You can't do anything without funding, without resources. Well, listen to this. We've been successful in securing funding for the next 5 years to develop a strong foundation and infrastructure for a national organization for the benefit of all sheds in Canada. Now, you may find this hard to believe. We got the funding for 5 years. Initially, it was supposed to be 3. I went and begged for 5. But this is an anonymous donor. They don't want to be recognized. They don't want to be thanked. They come to you. You know, as a philanthropic organization, they approached us. And there are 3 streams that they're funding. One is early childhood development. The other one is environment. And thank God, Men's Shed is another one. So we are so grateful to them for recognizing the value of men's sheds in Canada and getting a very significant level of funding support to achieve our objectives in the next 5 years. So that's funding is secure. But again, what happens after 5 years? You know, so we have to make sure that we sustain our organization, and with that, we're going to have to get charitable status. We don't have charitable status yet. We've applied for it last November. Apparently it takes about, 6 months, 7 months. We've been back and forth with CRA, and we're expecting a decision from them by the end of June. And that'll be a big thing for us as well. We spent 3 of our sheds in British Columbia applied for charitable status, and we were over the last 4 years, and we were turned down each time. This time, our national organization said enough is enough. We've got to really lobby and do whatever we have to do with CRA and government to get charitable status. We hired a law firm in Toronto that guaranteed 100% success or your money back. So we'll see what happens at the end of June. But it's looking good. And, and of course, I'm talking to my member of parliament. I'm saying, can you go and approach, the minister responsible national revenue where CRA is housed, tell us where we're at, are we going to get it or not, encourage them to support it and so on. So we do a lot of lobbying that way as well. We've established a research committee, and, thank God we have people like Laura. My God, she's brilliant, and she's such a force and a real lead for our committee. And right now we're trying to develop, policies on well-being of older men and to identify factors related to the effectiveness of men's sheds in Canada. We did a little study with the University of Alberta. Some of the graduate students did a study, and we found out, literature review and so on, very, very little policy on older men. And there's very little information about men's sheds and so on. Well, that's not surprising. Compared to what's happening in United Kingdom, for example, or Australia. So right now on our Policy Research Committee, we have 5 universities involved, and also the Canadian Institute for Social Prescribing, the Canadian Association of Gerontology, Help Age Canada as well, and we're currently negotiating with the University of Toronto to establish a repository for all the data research that we're going to develop and share with everybody. One other thing that we're looking at is something that United Kingdom Men's Shed Association did, and they established a program called an ambassador program. They have 40 ambassadors located throughout the United Kingdom who act as their voice in trying to start sheds and helping existing sheds. So we're going to do the very same and spread them around throughout Canada. And again, these people are going to help us start as many sheds as possible and help us reach that 1,000 mark over the next 10 years. Again, in terms of sustainability, we recently, with the funding that we just got, it will now allow us to hire a professional fund development person. So we've got somebody in mind. We're going to do that, and not only to help our national organization, but also the provincial associations and the individual sheds. You know, where are the resources? How do you write grants? Who should you approach? What are your needs? Is this the best place to secure funding, and so on? So we're going to provide them with that kind of a service. And now we're also, and the same individual is going to be responsible for developing a corporate sponsorship program to secure discounts on tools and equipment and enhance resources that sheds really require for their benefit. So those are two big things that we're working on right now. Also, we're involved, well, we have to be involved in advocacy. Awareness is a big part of our program, and not very long ago, a few months ago, through my member of parliament, I asked if I could meet with the senior advisors of the main ministries, federal government ministries, that cater to seniors, to men, older men. And so I did meet with 5 of them. Ministry of Health, Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, Family Services, Seniors, and so on. And we got along really well. We made a pitch. They were very interested, ready to help us. Guess what happens? Trudeau calls a cabinet shuffle. All these people were all relocated. I have to start from scratch again. I did 2 months ago, met with them, but these are not nearly as enthusiastic as the first group. So we have our homework to cut out for us. And it is what it is. The other thing I want to tell you about is, in terms of awareness again. So we've recently been approached by a media company from Toronto who want to do a series of documentaries, 6 documentaries, 6 half-hour shows on men's sheds, and they want to sell it to either CBC or Netflix or CTV and so on. And they want really colorful personalities, sheds, shedders, and very interesting sheds. So we're working on making that happen. So 6 half-hour series, again, to promote, men's sheds throughout Canada. I just want to say, men's sheds is a force for good. Like I said earlier, it's about men helping men and shoulder to shoulder. Men, when their hands are busy working on something, they can communicate with each other. Otherwise, face to face, it doesn't happen. So I just want to conclude by letting you look at this 4-minute video, which I helped to produce with our men's shed in Squamish. It talks a little bit about who we are and what we do.
You get old, you get retired, you're not working anymore, you got a lot of time in your hands, and the best thing you can do is to get out there and interact with the community at large.
As I moved here, just needed to meet people in this community.
Men's Shed gives me some place to go, and there's always something to do. Keeps your mental well-being in check.
Personally, it keeps my wife happy. She knows that I'm doing something useful.
You know you're going to get out of bed in the morning, you have a reason to go out and you meet other fellows.
It makes you feel a part of something bigger than what you are.
That's just about everybody in that shed that I deal with. It enriches my life.
I have been asked so many times by so many people, what exactly is the Men's Shed?
I would describe it as an organization who volunteer their time to support initiatives in the community.
It provides a friendly and safe environment.
It's about connection, and it's about reducing depression in senior men and just promoting more of a community.
They're making things possible for other people that probably would never happen if it wasn't for us.
The guys in the shed are a totally mixed bunch.
And I've met some really, really great people at that shed.
We all have different talents, and we all contribute in different ways.
Spread that knowledge around. It's no sense keeping it to yourself.
You can be a social member, you can be an active member.
It's a very satisfying experience.
Last year, 3,500 volunteer hours were dedicated to doing dozens and dozens of projects with numerous nonprofit partners in our community.
The Men's Shed have been really good partners in helping the society with little projects.
And then you see it around town. I mean, we've got bat houses all over the place. We've got benches all over town. We've got take a book, leave a book, the whole works.
We were fortunate enough to mount the first ever provincial conference right in Squamish.
Was delighted to have the support of the Men's Shed in building 6 of the raised beds at the school.
Made a couple of beanbag toss targets for daycare.
Done a couple of barn owl houses.
Somebody dug the holes, put the owl houses up, braced them all up, and then you stand back and say, oh, it's done.
It keeps us mentally alert. It keeps us physically in shape. The Men's Shed movement really is all about men helping men shoulder to shoulder.
And then at the end of the day, you know, we all feel good about ourselves.
Would I recommend Men's Shed? I definitely would, and I have already.
A lot of men my age have a lot of knowledge and a lot of spare time on their hands, so why not?
We have a huge variety of levels of participation. I mean, some of us are organizing and carrying on projects and involved in absolutely everything, and others a little more peripheral, and that's okay too.
It doesn't mean you have to know how to do woodwork. That's entirely up to you.
I mean, you grow in the Man Shed. You know, 70-year-old guys that are sitting there growing and coming with new skills and new ambitions, new experiences, you know, and it's changing them, you know, it's for the better.
Thank you. On behalf of everyone here, we want to thank you, Robert, President of Men's Sheds, for that terrific presentation, and we love the video as well. It just shows how organically developed community development based on volunteers can be so powerful. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Andrew, I wanted to present a little plaque to you in appreciation for inviting us
I'll come up.
This is the Men's Shed Canada.
I'll let you go, Joe, to say a couple of things. Thank you. This is great. And I want to thank Laura Katawaki, who actually linked us up, and works for United Way. We talked about Laura earlier, and she was very instrumental, and United Way, of course, has been a big supporter of Men's Sheds Canada. So thank you, Laura. She's not here, but I'd like to mention her.